Good morning, everyone. Oh, our thoughts are prayers. Life is good. I, like Kevin, am tired too, but not for the same reasons. Yeah, I got off of a plane at 1 o'clock this morning, made it home about 2 o'clock, and got myself ready so that I could come in here and talk to you all. We had a funeral for my dear uncle who passed, and I wanted to be there. You know, it's important. Family is always important, and so I'm so grateful that I was able to make it and then make it back here in time for for this and and for all the other things that life has in store for me. So I'm so very grateful. I'm also grateful for today and this talk that is about to come through me. Y'all, oh my goodness, there is so much that is going on in the world. And when we put it in context, I think that it is a beautiful thing when we start to think about it. So when I was trying to come up and think about what it was that I was going to talk about today, that song, Colors of the Wind, came to me. And Kevin has been so wonderful to have this prepared for us to kind of sing together afterwards. But I want to kind of dwell in that space for a moment to think about what it means. That song originally came out of the Pocahontas, a Disney classic, and based on the life of Pocahontas. And one of the things that I started to think about was just exactly how we think about the world. The song starts off with this idea that we see the world like as a commodity. I'm going to put it out there just like that, right? Instead of looking at this world as something that is alive and something that we're all connected to, something that feeds us on a daily basis, people look at ways to commodify everything, to make something out of something that they can utilize, spend, make money off of. Everything is commodified. People, right? Bodies. We do it with everything on the earth. We do it with God. We sell and make something out of everything. Instead of seeing a tree as a tree, we look at it as all this timber, all this wood, what can we do with it, right? We have conquered and done this with the earth, and now we've got people who try to do it with the moon, right? We got billionaires that are going out there trying to colonize the moon. We go into the water, and people want to go up under the deep blue sea and try to build something there. Everything we have made into a thing that we can buy, sell, or trade. And so as I started to think about what it is that we do, I was struck by, and I don't know the scripture, so don't get all bent out of shape because I don't know how to quote it correctly. But we sometimes have this tendency to have a real idea about the law, but we lose the spirit of it. We know, and I'm talking a new thought, we know all the laws that we put into practice, all the things that we're supposed to do. And we go around and we talk about what we do with our words and our actions and our money and laws of attraction and all of these principles that we put into place. But there is a part of us that has lost the spirit of it. That it's not something that we do just so we can get something. But how do we be the people that we need to be so that this is a world that works for everybody? And so when I started thinking about this, I started thinking to myself, doesn't somebody have a plan for that, right? Doesn't somebody have some? And then I started thinking about the Prime Directive. Okay, so the Trekkie section over here. Right? And one of the things that the Prime Directive talks about is this non-interference in other cultures. To be able to respect another culture and let it develop in the way that it will without our interfering in its affairs, without our going over and trying to acquire it, as if there is not something special and unique about the culture itself. There is this idea that people have of trying to dominate everything, and then don't understand why people resist. And so when I see things like what we're going through now, it causes me to stand back and question why it is that we believe that our way is the only way. Our way of being and seeing and interacting and engaging, why do we have the perception that it's the only way? Do you know that there are certain countries where children, when they go to what we call school, they go to play? They go and develop in a natural kind of way without having these strict guidelines put on them in the first place. There is this sense of people getting to know themselves through fun and through play. Y'all, we have forgotten how to play. We have forgotten how to imagine, how to desire something different for ourselves. And don't tell me you're too old to play. Right? Because once we lose that, there is something within us that in itself dies. We've got to figure out how to re-engage this thing called imagination. We've got to learn how to have fun again, how to laugh, how to love, and how to want for yourselves just with the happiness that you want for everybody else, the world. How do we engage in that? How do we really learn how to love? And so as I started breaking this apart, I started thinking about how even in my family, it's so amazing because everybody wants to, have a bigger house or a better car or this, that, and the other, and make it seem as though we come over to see what your house looks like. And so first off, y'all didn't know my mother, right? My mother was a force of nature. And when we went out of town, we didn't go out of town. Y'all, I don't know if anybody else grew up like this. But we didn't go out of town to sit up and sip, little fruity drinks and put our feet up. We went out of town, and when the bishop showed up, it was like we showed up to help. We didn't come when there wasn't something to do. We came in harvest time. We came, and if we walked in your house and it needed to be straightened up, we're not sitting up watching your TV or sitting around a pool. We rolled up our sleeves and we got to work. We got busy. I know most people don't live that way, but that was my parents, right? They were the type that when there was something that needed to be done, we did it. And so instead of sitting around judging folks and, right? There is a connectedness to life. And when you are experiencing something that is taking you out of your comfort zone, it's not for me to turn around and over here. It's for me to turn around, roll up my sleeves and say, how can I help? We are one. But yet what happens is we sit there and we look at it as if it is something to be conquered. Oh, their house needs cleaning. How can I get some money out of you for this, right? No, we were not like that. We weren't raised that way. I'm not sorry, but that we weren't raised that way. And so sometimes I wonder what happens to a world where the only thing that we can see is ways that we can get over, as opposed to how we can all benefit, how we can all step up. I'm so grateful for those of you who step in, roll up your sleeves, and do what needs to be done, David. Thank you, right? Thank you for all of you who roll up your sleeves and do the work that is there for us to do. Because once we recognize that all of this stuff is about us connecting with each other, all of the things that we do is learning how to get past our divisions. Didn't we just talk about that? A world that works for all of us. And here's the thing. When we watch the news or when we watch these programs, it'll have us thinking that somehow our work, the things that we need to do is benefiting, somebody else. Do you realize how many shows that we watch that's all about killing somebody or about violence? It's all about division rather than connectedness. And when we sit up and we celebrate those things, there's something within us that dies. There's something within us that shrinks back. And so how do we offset that? What is it that we can do? What is it that I can do? That becomes the questions that we have to ask ourselves. What can I do to make a difference? When we see somebody that is with the mentality of, I don't know. I don't know if I saw this at first with the Joker and the Riddler and all of these people who wanted to conquer the world. What is that? What is that? I don't know. Where do we get that from? And then we can ask ourselves, well, is this biblical? Right? This idea of manifest destiny, this idea of acquiring land, this idea of, if I put my flag here, if I come here and I don't see you out here able to defend it, I can take it. What is that? I don't know. But at a certain point, when we just lose the essence that everybody has a right to the same life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we do. When we lose that, we lose a part of ourselves. We lose our own humanity. And that part is sad. So, we look at these things and whether we look at them and we see the justification behind it, right? I don't know. I look at programs and I see that, whether it's Popeye the Sailor Man I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today, right? Whatever it is, when we look at the messages that we've received over and over again, we've got to ask ourselves, how is this working for me? How's this working for the people that I care about, and how is it working? Can we imagine something different? Can we imagine together a world that actually works for us all? I don't know, can we? And so when I think about where we're going, one of the things that I think these teachings are supposed to show us is how to show up better in the world. How to love. Not just how to get for ourselves what we want, but how do we make this work for all of us? So we can talk about the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. We can talk about the shift, right? That I didn't come to destroy it. I came to fulfill it so you can be set free from it. And so I sit there and I think to myself, like, man, this thing of salvation, it's got to be something that flows freely from our hearts. Not just looking at it like this is Jesus's role, that Jesus was supposed to love, Jesus was supposed to heal. But he said all these things I do, you can do also. So why not try? Right? What prevents us? Maybe it's the disappointment we might feel if the prayer we give out on somebody else doesn't seem to work. Maybe it wasn't for somebody else you were giving it to. Maybe it's for you. You ever think of that? That just because the person doesn't get up and take their bed and walk away doesn't mean that prayer failed. It was about developing your courage. So why not stop and pray for somebody else and not look for the results? Right? I mean, sometimes when we do things, we're expecting something in return. Wonder if we take the boundaries off of all of this. Wonder if it's not about the thing that we think it's about, and we just start living in the mystery of it. Stop looking for the outward physical evidence and just learn how to be. Oh my goodness. Just be, that's a song, isn't it? And so I love the way that these things teach us about this idea of oneness. But if we haven't begun to live the oneness in our lives, we're just talking. How do we begin to demonstrate? How do we reach out and say to the person that's before us, I see you. I connect with you. I honor you in your experience. Sometimes, I get it. We need to see ourselves in the things that we do. Y'all, sometimes we got to laugh at it because it takes all kinds. And I'm not trying to say those, are wrong who want to acquire more. That's not what I'm saying. But at what cost? Right? At what cost? What cost? I mean, if we think about that something in us is diminished when we turn a blind eye, when we think about that something in us dies when we forget how to play, when we forget what it's like to be a child, when we just want it to be the way that do it the way I say. I see people who fuss at these little kids all the time trying to, and there's a such thing as a spiritual death that we see happening in people. And we somehow think it's right because now they're more civil or civilized. When we look at Pocahontas and the story of her, she was celebrated because she ended up marrying one of the colonizers, one of the people who had made her betray her own folks. When I remember watching, was it the Gangs of New York or something like that, when people were still Irish and Italians and all of these other things. And then all of a sudden there was this thing, well, maybe if we all band together, we could just say, well, at least we're not blacks, right? And so, I don't know, but when we start to analyze and look at these things and what they do to us, we lose a piece. We lose a piece by just trying to connect to something that we perceive gives us power. Power over rather than power to. And so I look at, Jesus was talking about the Good Samaritan as we call it, this Good Samaritan. It was a different culture altogether, a different race altogether, and yet Somebody stopped and reached out. Somebody stopped and did what was good, what was right, what was true. That's the gist of the story. Not to talk about, oh, he gave his money to take care of this person. Maybe it's about the cultural thing that saw beyond the separation, that saw the person that was wounded and needed help and actually just helped. Not whether or not they were looking like and acting like you and I. That's the message. So how do we learn how to love? How do we learn how to love whoever? Not even people. Wonder if we just learned how to love all of life. Learn how to love a mosquito. I know. I know it's a pesky thing, but don't they have a purpose too? People, we kill bees and we make it seem like like it's only us that matters. Wonder if we honor the tree. Wonder if we honor the very ground that we walk on. I read a book years ago that I don't know why I picked up the book off of the shelf. It was screaming at me, buy me, buy me. I bought the book and I actually read it. And it was called Acting as If the God in All of Life Mattered. And that darn book changed me. It changed me. Because I was like sitting there thinking to myself, who thinks about the worms beneath the ground? But somebody actually does. Somebody actually sits there and sees the value of all of life. My family, y'all, I was in Mississippi. And them folks, when I was talking about eating plant-based, they was like looking at me like I had lost my mind. And there's a pressure, right? There's this pressure to conform sometimes. Like they sitting up there saying, there's greens, there's this, there's that. I'm like sitting there thinking to myself, like, I don't eat that. Not saying that I'm right or that I'm better than, but I just choose not to do that anymore. I realize that there is a pressure to conform in every aspect. And it's hard to stay, to live your truth, to stay the course when you got all these people telling you. My cousin, he was like, y'all, did y'all know? They got the, y'all know? Cousin Sand hugs trees. She over there looking like, ooh, look at that big one. And they made fun of me. It's all good. But it's so funny to be the brunt of jokes, and for a moment there you want to get a little embarrassed. But then there's the thing of me going out there and saying, here, take off your shoes. Come on, y'all, try it. Just try it. Right? Imagine something possible, something different, right? Can we just imagine for a moment? Wonder if we stopped with this thing of saying that I'm the only thing right, this is the only way. Wonder if we just allow ourselves to imagine more. Y'all, to me, it would just be such a beautiful thing. Can you imagine that? Wonder if we imagined that maybe Greenland doesn't want to be a part of the United States. I wonder if we just imagine that. Wonder if we imagined that other cultures liked being who they are. Sometimes, I sit there and I do my cousins like that. I'm guilty too, right? What do you mean you don't want a hug? Come here, right? Let me give you a hug anyway. Imagine that, right? Just because you didn't grow up getting them doesn't mean that you don't need them now. All you need is love, right? How do we move past this stuff? Oh, cousin Sam. Oh, you know? So, this idea of imagining something different, this idea of maybe learning how to honor the God in all of life. Maybe if we just opened ourselves up to see that maybe this love we can demonstrate not just with our words, but with our presence, with our deeds. Maybe some of us will say, not on my watch. Right? Maybe what we'll do is we'll stop, like, because even though I know it may be one of those woo-woo things, maybe people can feel your judgments. And so it's not necessarily about them that needs to change, but if it's me that's judging, maybe it's me, oh Lord, that needs to change. I don't know. But if love is all we really need, how can we be more loving in our hearts? How do we do what Jesus said do? You know? How do we get to that space? So I don't know, for some reason I want to mention the Ferengis, right? There's a whole group of people who are all about acquisition, acquiring, all of this stuff, right? And it seems like that's what turns them on. I get it. But wonder if maybe if we learned how to see differently, maybe what I find is when I acquire things, when I get stuff, it's not for me and myself and my big old pile over here, but maybe it's so that I can bless somebody else. Maybe it becomes about how I can share, how I can benefit, even if it's to employ somebody else, right? Maybe we stop looking at the moon and just look in our community, right? I don't know. Look, I cleaned out a few garages while I was out of town, right? And I'm sitting up there saying, maybe y'all need more cousins to give this stuff to. Why is it sitting here? Why do you need 5 refrigerators? I don't understand. Why do you live in a house and there's only one person and you got 2 freezers full of food? There's, to me, something a little, I'm sorry if you were listening to this, but there's something really wrong with needing to have, to go and have a cow killed and cut up so you can have all these ribeyes, and there's people out here that don't even have food. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but come on. At some point, we've got to learn how to live in community again, how to love again, how to connect again. One last thing. Y'all ever heard of rock soup? I know I had to talk about this before. Stone soup, rock soup. Yes! Maybe we can have a few pots of those, right? For those of you who haven't heard of rock soup or stone soup, right? Started out, this young man, the way that the story goes, young man goes into a village and he's looking for something to eat and nobody wants to give him anything to eat. And everybody is like, I don't have anything to share. And so what he did is he went around and he asked somebody, do you have a pot? Yeah, I got a pot. Here, give him the pot. He just says, do you have any water? Yeah, I got some water. And somebody gives him some water to go in his pot. And so he goes out there and he's setting up the fire and everything. And so somebody says, well, what are you doing? And he says, I'm going to make rock soup or stone soup, right? And so he cleans up a rock and he puts it in there. And somebody's looking at him like, you're going to make some soup out of that? Yeah. And he's like, well, how about, I got a few potatoes, right? And somebody else got Carrots, yeah. Somebody else has onions, yeah. Right? And pretty soon they had a whole big old pot of soup because all of a sudden people just started sharing what they had. And you know how beautiful that is? Maybe that's all we really need. Right? To get beyond what we think separates us and get to the place where we live the principles that we talk about. All right, that's what I got for you today. Blessings.
Thank you, Reverend Sandra. I think, yeah, the basic message of sharing is one that can't be overstated in this day and age. So thank you. And with that, I don't know if anybody has seen the film Pocahontas or knows the song, but that's what we're going to do here. So if you know it, please sing along. And we're going to do it a little faster, a little more upbeat with a little bit of gusto because it's post-message. So we sort of made our own rendition here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a dream. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or ask the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries